This is Reframe, the podcast from the College of Education, Health, and Society on the campus of Miami University. In this episode, we talk about Miami University's Student Affairs and Higher Education program and how its emphasis on critical self-reflection, personal transformation, and its ability to diversify even the concept of diversity itself make it one of the most unique and innovative programs of its kind. Life across most college campuses, just as it is now across many aspects of society, is changing, and fast.
College students today are more diverse than ever in all kinds of ways. We try hard as a faculty to talk about diversity as more than just race, right? So we're trying to bring a wider perspective to what diversity is.
That's Dr. Kathy Goodman, EHS Assistant Professor of Educational Leadership, who's working closely with her colleagues to address these issues. As wave after wave of profound demographic shifts, widening socioeconomic gaps, contrasting cultural perspectives, and more, all continue to transform educational landscapes in dramatic and sometimes unexpected ways, most universities are scrambling to evolve in tandem. The good news is that these shifts can lead to vibrant cultures, rich with progressive learning opportunities. However, they can also create tension, especially for institutions unable to navigate the uncertainty that such rapid change can sometimes bring. Between these dynamics, very often stands the work of student affairs professionals who are responsible for facilitating campus climates that are responsive to both culture and conflict. From residential life and career services to academic advising and beyond, their job is to humanize the college experience by building a supportive environment that brings together many different students from many different backgrounds. And across Miami University, nowhere is this approach more accurately reflected than through its own Student Affairs and Higher Education program, or SAHE for short, where issues surrounding social justice, inclusion, and diversity are clearly taking center stage.
Student affairs educators have always taken the lead on difficult topics related to diversity. They were the first people to, face issues related to race, related to LGBT, related to gender, and help students grow and understand those topics, both who they are personally, but then how to navigate in a diverse world.
At Miami, both structurally and thematically, the SAHE program is systematically embracing diversity in numerous ways and with considerable success. Here's Dr. Stephen Quaye, EHS Associate Professor of Student Affairs.
We intentionally recruit and retain students of color, so racial, ethnic, minoritized students. And over the past, I've been here 5 years, over the past 2 years, we now actually enroll more than half. So to me, that's a dramatic shift of actually recruiting, but then also graduating and retaining more students of color.
And this same approach has also translated to faculty as well, as EHS has taken every opportunity to expand its non-traditional demographic profile. Dr. Kathleen Abowitz, EHS Department Chair of Educational Leadership, talks about this ongoing transformation.
We had some key retirements and have kind of consciously hired to bring in a cohort of faculty who do research related to diversity. And so when we sort of looked at kind of who we wanted to become, we thought about prioritizing the needs of diverse students and the needs of student affairs professionals being prepared to educate on campuses that were diverse.
This progress has been attributed in part to SAHE's success attracting, retaining, and graduating such a high percentage of students of color and ethnic minorities. And it's starting to show students that when they come to Miami, they'll have someone who will potentially understand what they're going through. It creates that social support, that network. But what's more, it's also been instrumental to the type of content that SAHE students encounter as well.
And as a result, the curriculum has transformed and the research, the kinds of research that faculty do.
Throughout EHS, diversity is more than just a numbers game. It's more than how many people there are of a certain demographic or ethnicity. That is, it's more than just about race. It's also about how the educational experience itself helps students think in socially conscious and culturally relevant ways. And it's about the practical skills and the critical self-awareness they gain in the process. Again, here's Dr. Abowitz.
So and an example of someone in our faculty doing research in that is Elisa Avis, who is looking at kind of students with disabilities and their developmental kind of trajectories in college, right? Which nobody has really studied, I don't think in any real way. So that's sort of an example of how our program is helping forward the research agenda of sort of the 21st century campus, as well as preparing our graduates to address, all kinds of student issues.
Another example is the work of EHS Assistant Professor David Perez. By studying Latino male success, Perez is pursuing a paradigm of asset-based education rather than a deficit-based model.
That's really important because a lot of the 20th century models have to do with seeing non-traditional students or non-white students as kind of needing repair or needing help and needing fixing in some way. And so even when you are not thinking about Latino males, that asset-based approach is something that our students are going to bring into the workplace, and that's going to have a positive impact on how they work with students and what kind of students they see as potential leaders and all of those things.
Other topics also cover often overlooked aspects of student life, such as spirituality, religion, and atheism. While typically neglected across many institutions, this area is of growing interest among student affairs scholars, especially when considering the variety of belief systems that many students use to derive meaning and purpose. And to bridge this gap, Dr. Goodman leads a course specifically designed around religious diversity and interfaith engagement.
It gives the students who are in it a chance to think about what it is they believe and learning how to articulate that. And then the final piece of the course then is like, okay, so now that you've thought about this, what are you going to do in your own practice? How are you going to support different students with differing beliefs? And how are you going to provide opportunities for this area of development?
SAHE students also learn similarly practical and applied strategies to engage in uncomfortable conversations, acknowledge tensions, and open productive dialogues to reduce the cultural conflicts that still rage across campuses today. And in many of Dr. Quay's classes, these hot-button issues are addressed directly.
I teach a course specifically about engaging issues of race in the classroom. We train people to facilitate dialogues about race, class, privilege, power, etc.
According to Dr. Quaye, it's often very easy for many people to become defensive when confronted with biases, assumptions, stereotypes, or racism. So he actually teaches students how to practice self-awareness, how to resist urges to become defensive, and more.
We also teach a concept, the difference between shame and guilt, and how that looks different and manifests in dialogue spaces. So I think that's another practical tool. I think something else that we do is I help students understand how to just name what they're seeing is happening. I think sometimes when it comes with race, we talk around it rather than actually saying specifically this has to do with race and being able to talk about it. So I would say that's another critical skill that students develop as a result of that class.
This emphasis on self-awareness is a core pillar of the program, and it threads throughout most of the curriculum, and often in innovative ways. In addition to her work on spirituality and atheism, Dr. Goodman, for example, also teaches a course on what she calls critical whiteness.
In my opinion, it's the new way to think about diversity. The old way was essentially, and I'm just going to be really blunt, right? But it was okay, here are majority white students, and we want to help them be better people, understand diversity, appreciate diversity, stop being racist. So we have them study the other. So they take a course in race relations. They take a course in African American history. They take a course in diverse religions of the world. So it helps them understand the other, doesn't help them understand themselves and the role that they play in creating a less racist world.
Goodman helps students think about what it means to be white, how that concept has developed over time, and the embedded assumptions and privileges it can carry. This, she explains, helps students turn the focus back onto themselves, to consider why things might be the way they are, how barriers to diversity and inclusion are built into policies and institutions, and how exclusionary thinking can be easily perpetuated even without conscious intent. And of course, this type of inquiry is not exclusive to white students alone. The critical and reflective components of SAHE are carefully instilled into all students.
Like our students, as part of their comps process, they have to develop a philosophy, a praxis philosophy. And it's very much informed by all the kind of self-work that they've done along the way. And so they leave this program with a lot of mission and purpose. And I think that brings a kind of maturation to them as professionals that you won't necessarily find in all student first programs.
Here, it's about doing the hard and sometimes soul-searching work needed to meet the challenges of a dawning 21st century society, one that can be far better equipped to nurture tolerance, understanding, acceptance, and equality, wherever and whenever possible.